Computer animation. Hi, it's Mr. G here. What I wanted to do was the lecture I gave about building the skeleton that took a whole block period plus a little bit more. And so what I wanted to try and do is and I've recorded it and I've posted it up there and I've trimmed out the parts, but it was rather long. So this is a short version. I want to remind you, you can rewind, you can pause, but I'm going to jam through making the skeleton. So basically I'm going to do what we did on a block day and a regular day. I'm going to try and do it in 20 minutes, so I hope you're ready, so strap in. All right, so we're going to build the skeleton for our character. So I'm going to use Mario instead of the bear for our lecture here. Always a good idea to do a save scene as. I'm going to call it skeleton start. This Mario is on the pickup drive. Or you could be using whatever character you want. Luigi, the character you made, whomever. This isn't the best model, but it'll work for our purposes today. All right, so I'm actually going to take you through even the submission process. So here we go. I've done a save as, and now I want to work in 4-view. You might get to 4-view, and you might notice that you don't see your character in certain places. You might need to turn off X-ray. X-ray with this model, because I set up the Lambert's weird. X-ray is not really working, but you do want to turn on X-ray joints. So X-ray joints looks like that. You probably want that on every single window. It's a very teeny tiny button. It looks like one little joint, which hopefully you're familiar with. All right. With the joint tool does not work well in the perspective window, so we're going to hop along into our side view here, and we're going to start by making the spine. So once we get to the side view, we got to switch to get to our joint tool. We have to switch this drop-down menu to rigging, and we're going to be using skeleton create joints. What we're going to be starting with is the spine, and everyone's character is a little different. Mario is really going to only have 2 joints along his back. He's going to have a total of 6 joints total for his spine. Some of you have longer characters with longer torsos. You might want 3 or maybe even 4 joints on a spine. And some of you have really squish characters. Like the more squish person I can think of is like a SpongeBob. And he would have maybe 1 joint because his head is basically his body. So everything's going to be a little bit different. So just kind of take what I'm demonstrating and apply to your case scenario. But everyone usually starts right between the 2 legs. So I'm going to go to my joint tool, once again, skeleton, create joints. I'm going to start making sure that I have my joint tool window open, and I'm going to create a root right there, right at that bottom crotch. Then I'm going to make my second joint right around the waistline, somewhere right around there, but I'm going to lean it all the way near the back. I'm going to make my third joint somewhere around the middle of the chest, but again, angle it towards the back. And now it's hard to see with Mario. I'm going to put him in 4-view for a second. But I'm going to make 2 joints, one where the neck meets the body, and the other where the head meets the neck. So I'm going to grab my neck meets the body right about there. And then another one where the head meets the neck right about there. And I can adjust these later if I need to. I'll check them in a second. And then lastly, the last one I'm going to do is the top of the head. So most of the time, everyone needs a neck, a head, and a top. Everyone needs a root. How many go between those is going to be up to you and your character. Now, you don't want to have like 20. That's going to be way too much to manage. You don't want maybe 1 for a character like this. That would be too few to really kind of get a nice smooth bend. So this works, and everyone's got a slightly different scenario. Okay, I'm going to double check, and it looks like I got my this joint right here a little low. This should be right next to right where the neck is being the body. And Mario has a really short neck, and then that means that I've now moved my head joint a little too high, and I'm going to pull that down. So there's a really tiny joint here that I'm using for between the neck and the head, the bone, right? If you can see that. And then the top of the head can just stay there. That all works out. Now I'm adjusting these kind of on purpose, just to kind of mess with them. And we want it going straight down the middle of our T-pose here. Okay, that's how you do the spine. Also, right now my joints are really skinny because my hand is we're gonna have to make them skinny for the hand. But if you wanted to make them a little bit bigger, you can go up here to display or smaller and go to animation, joint size, and I can pull them up or down like so, right? I can close it. I'm probably gonna need to make these smaller when I get to the hand. Let's go to the leg. The leg, again, going back to skeleton, create joints. The hip is actually above the root and back here somewhere. So we're going to click around here for the hip, and then somewhere at the front of the leg for the knee, and somewhere in the middle of this place where the ankle is going to be, and then a ball of the foot, and then a toe. Now, again, you're going to have characters with maybe no feet or even super longer feet where you might want, or bare feet where you actually might need to make toe joints. But most of you are going to have it like this. Whatever you do, do not, I repeat, do not make a leg joint like that. Do not make a leg joint that's perfectly straight up and down. You need to give it a little bit. So one more time, a leg joint like this. Yay, that's good. A leg joint like this. It has all the same components, but it's straight at a right angle like this. It's going to cause a lot of problems later. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you get rid of those, and you have this joint here. Okay. Next, if you look at the front view, you notice that the joint is going right down the middle. You don't want that, right? So you're going to take it from the hip part, and you're going to move it. If you can get the leg going straight up and down, the character here, without any rotations, that's fine. But some of you might need to rotate it so it matches a little bit better. So again, I'm just going to kind of rotate it along. I'm going to have to rotate this guy. Oops. Back like this. And like this. Again, every character is going to be different. Do the best that you can with what you've got. Something like that. Is that what I want? It's looking pretty good. I'm going to check it in the perspective just to make sure it looks good. Good. If you have it straight like this as well, that's okay, as long as it's following the pattern of the leg. Some of you might find it easier. Some of you do have legs that go straight up and down, and that's going to make your life a lot easier. All right, let's do the arm. The arm is going to come from the top view. Let me slide this over. And the arm actually begins in the clavicle. And the clavicle is the joint. Oops. The clavicle is the joint that makes you raise your hand up and down, makes your arm go across your body. And we start our joints in our arm joints from the top view. So again, I'm going to go to skeleton, create joints. It's also right here. It's my most last used. I can also press G because it's what I last did. And I'm going to kind of put it in the middle of his chest, right about there. And it's hard to see everything because Mario has such a big fat head. But I'm going to approximate it to be, that's about his clavicle. And then his shoulder is going to be somewhere right here. And his elbow, I kind of like to put the elbow at the back of the arm. Now this is a new one. You are going to put one with the wrist, but before you put one at the wrist, put one in the middle of the arm. This is called the forearm joint. And it'll make more sense once you see it weighted. But the forearm joint is to do kind of that royal wave, or that pulmonation and supination if you want the real thing. And then the wrist joint right here is for that up and down and a little left to right sway. So we actually make two joints for the wrist. One's called the forearm joint, one's called the wrist joint. Okay, now I'm going to, you'll see, it'll make more sense later. Now I'm going to make one for the inner part of the hand, and then I'm going to do a base knuckle, middle knuckle, index knuckle, but I'm going to make these smaller while I'm building. So I'm going to get display, animation, joint size. I'm going to pull them down so that they're small, so I can really get precise as to where I'm placing everything. That looks good. So I'm going to go to hit 5 again. I'm going to do a base of the knuckle, a middle of the knuckle, and the tip of the knuckle. I'm going to hit enter. And that's my basic arm. Now you're asking, what about the rest of the hands? We're going to make joints for them. If you have 4 fingers, if you did like, this is a cartoon one with only 3, you could do a system where you're sharing, a joint system between 2 fingers. And I don't care if you have 3 fingers or 4 fingers, that pinky and ring, or the middle finger and pinky, you can attach everything to that 1 finger system. Or if you don't like that, you could make a joint for every finger. So again, base, middle, tip. G repeats your action, base, middle, tip. And I'm going to do one for the outer hand. I'm going to do one for the bottom of the hand. Base, middle, tip, something like that. All right. Now if you go to your perspective view, you'll notice it's all on the floor. So what we need to do now is we need to kind of put that back in his body, and we might need to rotate some stuff around. So I'm going to take the parent, and I'm going to move this guy up first. And Mario, I actually gave him a little bit too much of an arc with his hand. So I'm actually going to need to rotate some stuff up. First of all, I'm going to check the clavicle looks like it's in a good spot. Shoulder looks like it's in a good spot. Elbow's pretty good. I can kind of maybe bring that in. This is going to cause some problems with the other pieces. And now I'm going to have to pull out my wrist a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to need to kind of angle some stuff up. So from the wrist here, I'm going to kind of pull everything up, maybe even more. And then maybe at the inner hand, I'm going to pull things down. I'm going to have to correct that a little bit later. There we go. Double check it in all my perspective views. It's looking pretty even there. Pretty good there. Pretty good there. All right. The other ones are easier to fall into place. I'm going to take this part of the hand, pull it on up. I'm going to wait till I see it in all of them, get it relatively even matched with the other ones. And then my two fingers. Bring both of those guys up. I can do the thumb at the same time. I don't know why I didn't pick the thumb. All three guys, come on up. The thumb might need to be a little lower. Yep, a little lower. That's fine. Pull my thumb down. It's lined up here. It's lined up there. Good. All right. Now what we need to do is we need to connect everything. Everything's kind of separate, but our bones are all connected together. So let's start with the hand. And the important part is you want the thick part of the bone. Let me see if I get to 5 here. Yeah. You want the thicker part of the bone, you always want it traveling outward. The skinny parts are always pointing away, especially on the arm. Everything should be pointing away from the body. And everything is so far. You just got to be very careful when you're connecting stuff. You always want to select the child first. So I'm going to say this child, and hold the shift key, belongs to this parent. And then I press P for parent. And it's not Command P, it's not Shift P, it's not Control P, it's not Yellow P, it's not Space P. It's just plain old P. Regular old P, right? So then I'm going to select this guy, hold the Shift key to select this guy, and press P. Same thing here. I'm going to add this to the middle knuckle, P, and then this guy belongs to the wrist, P. Everything else is connected until we get here. Now, some people make a direct line and go, oh, well, the clavicles connect to the neck. And that's not true. If you move your neck up and down, your shoulders do not move. Your clavicle does not really move, right? So you want to attach your clavicle to your middle chest right there. And you press P. Whoop. And then you have your hip here, and you shift select to your root, and you press P. Now we have everything connected on that one half. Before we copy over our arm and our leg, we need to label everything. And that's where it gets a little tedious. So I'm going to go pretty fast. I'm going to get my list back up here so you can see it and what I'm referring to. All right, the spine's going to be easy. I'm going to go through in my channel box. And I'm going to name, starting with this guy right here, I'm going to call this guy the root, or what I've seen a lot of people call it these days is the cog, C-O-G, center of gravity, the cog, right? Next one up, I'm going to call the waist. I've seen other people call it gut. I've seen it call that. I'm going to label all the main names in all caps. And every studio house kind of has a different system here. This is just one that I've seen. Every single the main name of the joint is all caps, just so it stands out a little bit. This one's going to be the neck. Oops, the neck. And I'm going to go faster. This next one is the head. Oop. And this next one up here is the top. I've also seen this called a couple other things, but we'll just go, not head, I'm sorry, top. Okay, boom. So the last three, or the three that are on the top part, should be neck, head, top. These ones in the middle, you're gonna name what you want, and then the ultimate parent, the super hierarchical top joint is the cog or the root. And I say top joint because when I click on this one, everything else gets highlighted, unlike at other places, right? Okay. Then here's the important part. When you're naming your hips, you got to designate that they're left or right. So these are all left. I like to call them LFT, all lowercase. And then I underscore it and I go HIP. And I keep that naming convention for everything. I'm even going to copy and paste LFT. It's very important, LFT knee. It's very important that you keep that consistency with how you're designating that it's left. Don't change it. Don't call it LEFT one time, LFT one time, L one time. Keep it the same. I'm going to make a mistake. Oops, I capitalized this one accidentally for whatever reason. I wasn't paying attention. Maybe I was recording myself, right? And then I'll keep going. I ignore it. So I'm going to make that mistake and I'll come back to it. Left. This one I call the ball, like the ball of the foot. And this one's the toe. Now, oops, wrong one. The toe. Toe. If you had a barefoot character, or if you had a character, I don't know, like a monkey or a dragon that had like a lot of appendages or fingers or toes, you could make more joints for those toes. But since Mario's wearing boots, I don't need them. So if your model has that and you want to articulate those toes, go ahead and make that. All right, here we go for the hand. Let's go starting with the clavicle. So up here, this is going to be, again, LFT. I'm just going to call it clav. We modelers, riggers, and animators, we like to abbreviate stuff. And then once again, LFT, shoulder. I don't know why they don't call it shoulder. It's too much like should, I guess. And then LFT, elbow. And then LFT, forearm. Now this is the weird one that people aren't used to. And then we have the wrist. This guy is the wrist. It'll all make sense later. Just, you're going to trust me because I'm going super fast. Wrist. Okay. This one I call inner hand. This one I call outer hand. So once again, inner hand. And this one's outer hand. And if you see the pattern here, the fingers are the tough part. Outer hand. All right. Next, we have to have a naming convention for our fingers. So the knuckle closest to the hand is sometimes called the proximal knuckle, or you can call it the base. And then you have your middle knuckle, and then you have your tip or your distal knuckle. So I'm going to go indicate left or right, indicate the type of finger, and then the type of joint. So I'm going to use my naming convention for this. I'm going to go left underscore, and then thumb all caps underscore. This one I'm going to call prox for proximal. Now you could also call it base if you want. Like if you don't want to use like the more scientific names, that's fine. I'm going to just copy and paste the whole thing, and I'm going to do index, and then this guy I'm going to call it what am I calling this one? Middle finger. We all love the middle finger, and the pinky. All right, now I'm going to take that same numbering format, go to my next knuckle up, and this one I'm going to change it to thumb mid. So the middle knuckle I'm just going to call it MID, and now I'm going to go through all the middle knuckles. Now instead of thumb, it's index, and instead of thumb, it's middle. So yeah, I'm going to have something called middle mid. But in the context of where it is, I know exactly what I'm talking about. PINKY. Oops, not oinky. They should call it oinky. All right, and then I got one more. These are the tips. Let's see. Paste. That's my thumb. I'm going to call this, excuse me. This is going to be thumb, and then, sorry, my bad. Brain fart. This one's going to be called tip. Or no, or distal. Or dist. I'm going to do the same thing here. Oops, I forgot to copy it. Command C. There you go. And then this one's going to be index. And then this one is middle and pinky. Now, I went through that really fast. You probably were typing and clicking a little bit slower. Pause, rewind, double check. It's always good to kind of double check. Make sure you, especially when you're copying and pasting, it's easy to kind of mix things up. Perfect. We're all good. Now, I still have my mistake over here where I accidentally capitalized one thing. Now that I have named everything, now I've named everything, everything's connected. The next thing I'm going to do is mirror the joints. Some people accidentally hit mirror when they click on the root. Please make sure you're doing it with the hip and the clavicle. If you do it with the root, you're going to wind up with 2 spinal columns, and that's going to cause problems when we get to the next step. Before we mirror, we have one other issue, because I rotated a few of these joints, and I moved a few of these joints. Like, see, I got to rotate right there. I would like those to get back to 0. But if I type in 0, it'll mess up the whole placement of it all. So what we got to do is we got to freeze transformations. The quick way to do it for all the joints is click on the root, right click, right click. Let's do that one more time. Undo. Right click, there it is. Select hierarchy. Sorry for that little technical difficulty. That means every single joint is selected. It's hard to tell the difference between when it gets selected or not. I'm going to hit modify, freeze transformations. And if you remember, my wrist had a rotate. All my rotates are now at 0. All my scales are at 1. My translates are still messed up. That's okay. Don't worry about that. Most of our movement with our joints is all rotations, so don't sweat the translates. Just, we have all our rotations down to 0. We're good. Once again, that was selecting hierarchy. That was selecting hierarchy and then hitting modify, freeze transformations. Now we're ready to copy these over. So I select my hip, I go to skeleton, I choose mirror joints options. Now here's the fun part. A couple of things you want to switch. You want to mirror across the YZ plane. Let me reset the whole settings. All right. Mirror across, we want to do the YZ plane. I know that because the X is sticking out and the YZ is cutting Mario in half. So I'm going along the YZ plane. I want to mirror the behavior, and I'm going to search for LFT. I'm going to replace with all lowercase RGT. I'm going to hit mirror. I'm going to repeat it. Go to my clavicle. If you missed what I did, skeleton, mirror joints options, YZ plane, behavior, search for LFT, replace with RGT. There we go. And you'll notice now I have a right elbow. Now I have a right wrist. Now I have a right knee. Now I have a left ankle. Wait a second, I have 2 left ankles. I have 2 left feet. Get it? Right? Nope. So I'm going to change this LFT. I'm going to change that into RGT. It's because I had a capital letter, so it is case sensitive. After that, you're done. Go ahead and do a save as and call it Mario Skeleton instead of call it Skeleton Done. And now we're ready to do weight painting. And that is going to be the fun part. How you're going to turn it in. Here's how you turn it in. We're going to hide everything but the skeleton. So you can go to show here and choose none and choose show and choose joints. And now I just got my skeleton hanging out here. Once again, show none, show joints. There it is. And you're going to take a screenshot. That screenshot is just a picture of your thing. So you're going to hit Command-Shift-4. That gives you a little crosshair. And you drag a picture across. It'll make a little picture sound. And it's going to have a little PNG or JPEG over here. You're going to click on it, press enter or return, and you're going to type 4 for period. It's all right here, right? 4 underscore char for character, skell for skeleton, underscore last name, and you turn in that JPEG for credit. Oops, I've already named it. That was the one I did for practice. So I'm going to open this up and drag it into the submit folder, and we are set. Okay. That's it. I'm going to just put this page up here one more time. So the thing you turn, to get it all back to normal, you hit show all. And now you can see everything again. Next week, we're going to start weight painting. That's where the real fun begins. I just want to put this on here one more time for you to view. And hopefully that was a little faster than class and you get all caught up. See you next period. Computer animation, digital 3D modeling and animation. Okay, bye.